Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob. My name is Bob Babbitt. We are at the Hyatt Regency and the Hilton, the spot where the Challenge Aruba will be starting in October. Our guest, two-time Ironman world champion. More importantly, the only guy to win Ironman World Championship and Norseman.
That's my claim to fame.
I love that.
I'll take it. Yep.
I love that. Now, we have talked a lot about the Ironman, and we will talk about that. But let's talk Norseman, because that, from chatting last night, that seems like it's really more about the core of Tim DeBoom, which is hard, challenging, different. You like all of that.
Yeah, that was one of the last races of my professional career, and it kind of summed up the entire reason why I got into the sport. I mean, when I started, Ironman wasn't as big as it is now, and
Right.
the sport wasn't as big as it is now, and going over and doing Norseman was kind of a jump back to kind of kickstarting the next stage of my life of what it's been since then, is just daily adventures and
Right.
with family and friends, and challenging myself. And that what it really comes down to is challenging myself. It was never about being against someone else.
No.
But it was, can I finish this? And
Yeah.
Norseman was one of those where I was like, can I finish this? And after
Sure.
20 years in the sport, I was back to that stage of, can I finish this?
An adventure.
Yeah, and it felt really good to do that.
And when you're talking about an event like that, you're talking about cold water. You're talking about, let's just add another, 10 miles or so to the bike ride just for the
Yeah.
heck of it.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about, and also the experience of your brother Tony and you had been so involved together in this journey of triathlon, to sort of sum up your career with him being your crew.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Tony and I, most of our lives we kind of follow each other around.
Yeah.
Or I followed Tony. And,
Yes.
And then he followed me into this sport, but we traveled the world together. And then I got married, and he got married, and he had kids, and and finished racing, and I was still racing. And when I decided to do Norseman, the unique thing about that race is you get to have a crew. It's not aid
Yes.
stations. It's every athlete has a crew member, and they kind of bunny hop you throughout the race, and they drive a car and give you your aid throughout the race, which is really unique and really fun. And
And a flashback to early Ironman.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the first moment I thought about doing Norseman, I called Tony and I was like, "You want to be my crew?" And he was like, "I'm in." And the DeBoom adventure was on, and we brought another friend along, photographer Eric Wynn,
yeah.
and he saw firsthand the DeBoom fun, and I mean, from the minute we left the airport to the flights and the other airports and the adventure, he documented it and it just turned into a great time.
And the water, 48 degrees.
Yeah, that was I'm not a big cold water guy. I mean, I've always suffered through it, but my parents used to have to bribe me to swim lessons because of the cold water, and
Yeah.
I wasn't that big fan of it. But it was just part of the race, and it's such a unique part of the race where you jump off a boat
Yes.
into the
In the-
fjord, and in the middle
the
of the
dark,
night, yeah,
right?
in the dark, and the only way to guide yourself is the lights on the buoys out there. So it's very unique, and I think if you embrace that, it becomes just the adventure that it is.
And the bike ride, I'm sure it was a little chilly while you're riding.
Yeah, we had rain, sleet, probably some snow out
Everything
there
you
somewhere,
wanted.
and then some sunny heat and treacherous descents, and it's everything you could ask for in a good bike ride.
What I love is events like the Ironman World Championship. You got to finish by midnight, or else you're not official.
Yeah.
At Comrades, they actually close the gate to the stadium if
Yeah.
you don't finish.
Yep.
This race, you basically, if you don't get to a certain point on the run by a certain time, you have to
don't
go
get
a different direction.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And you get a different color shirt.
Yeah, and what's funny is most of those things come about because of safety reasons.
Of course.
And this one, it's really a safety reason. If you can't venture onto the mountain when they know it's going to be dark, because it literally
You'll
the last
die.
5K is a trail that there's no lights, there's
Yes.
no glow sticks aren't going to help you out there, and so it really is a safety factor.
Right.
And so it drives you to. I mean, even then I was like, gosh, I hope I make it to the cutoff. When I was first doing it.
The other thing I love is you finish on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
And who gets to go down in the elevator and who has to hike down?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. If you win, you get to go down in the elevator, and so and more motivation to get to that top, because I mean, you're 10, 11 hours into this thing, which
Yeah.
is the longest Ironman I've ever done.
Oh, yeah.
And you get to the top, and I literally crossed the finish line, and all I wanted to do was fall asleep.
Yes.
I think I actually did fall asleep whilst just sitting on the rock, and the last thing you want to do is actually hike back down. And
How far would that hike be?
well, it would have been a good probably hour.
After you just
Yeah,
won
and
the
it's-
race or
again,
done the
it's
race?
just
Yeah.
straight down rocky trail,
Yeah, yeah.
and so yeah, no, it's they just inside the mountain, there's an elevator shaft, and it
Love
goes
it.
all the way down, and that was a nice little treat to win.
What I
One
think
of the perks.
When I think about your career, to me, it's tied to Peter Reed, just because you guys started as training partners, and
Yeah.
next thing you know, Peter's winning, and you're 10th, and I think then you end up winning with Peter behind you,
Yeah, no.
and Peter won a couple times.
Yeah,
before.
Peter won a couple times
Yep.
before I did, but
Yeah,
but,
98 and 2000.
You
Yeah.
know, it was one of those. Peter and I just clicked. It
Yeah.
was one of those things where we met. I think at Wildflower, and we had pushed each other. He was second, I was third. And,
Yes.
and had pushed each other, and I think he realized that I could probably benefit him in training. Even he didn't really know me that well, but the more we got to know each other, the more we enjoyed each other's company. We had a lot of common outside of racing.
Yes.
And so our little training trips, before the season, we'd do one before the holidays, which was nice. And then, he'd come to Boulder sometimes. And so it worked out really well. I learned a ton from him. It was one of those things where you take advantage of the people that are around you
Right.
that you can learn from, and you're stupid if you don't actually learn from them. So I followed a lot of what Peter did. I listened to him. I asked a lot of questions. I don't know if he regrets that or not at this point, but we're still really good friends, which is nice. He's got a kid, who's the same age as my
Yes.
daughter, and we get together now for little family vacations.
Love
and it's pretty
that.
fun.
So when you're training with a guy day in and day out, and you feel that there's days where you're dragging him along, there's other days where he's dragging you along, you're both hurting each other. He wins,
Yeah.
and you finish 10th.
Yep.
You've got to look at that and go, wait a second. One, the positive is, I know I hurt that guy, and he won.
Yeah.
The other side is, what do I need to do to replace that?
Yeah, and like I said, that's just a learning experience. I actually probably did too much. After he left, he went and did his last few
Little
weeks
taper.
of secret taper training, and I stayed in Boulder. And that you learn a lot by your mistakes. I mean, I'm definitely adamant that you learn more from your failures than your victories.
Yes.
That's what keeps making you come back for more and more. But I learned a lot that year, and I definitely didn't learn to win until I rested better.
So before your win in Kona in 2001, you had a sponsor, a major sponsor,
Yep.
and basically they called your agent just a few days before the race?
Yeah, that wasn't very tactful, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great sponsor
Yes.
while it lasted, and I've had a few sponsors over the years that just pulled some shenanigans and stuff that that you look back on and you're like, God, it's just inappropriate. But these guys were inappropriate. Luckily, one of my best friends, who was my manager and agent at the time, he knew my personality so well that he knew that if he told me that they were
Fire.
cutting their triathlon program before Ironman, that it would really fire me up, and it sure did. It worked.
And so you
Definitely.
win.
It was motivating, yeah.
Yeah, and what people forget about that particular race is that race was just not longer than a month after 9/11.
Yeah.
And at that point, there hadn't been any international sporting events. The world
No.
was still on hold.
Yeah, we didn't even know if Ironman was going to happen up until a few weeks before.
Yeah. And so during that race, I still remember people chanting at you. They weren't chanting Tim.
Yeah, that was an emotional day, and there were definitely a lot of Go USA out there more than anything, and it was special because the other athletes who weren't even from the United States would cross the finish line holding the American flag, and so it made a special day and a special memory for me.
Yeah.
It's one of those that, looking back, you can appreciate a lot more than in the moment. I just still wanted to win.
Right.
It wasn't as much. At the time, I wasn't thinking I got to do this for my country. I was still doing it for me.
Of course. Of course.
But looking back now, it's significant. And it's nice to have that memory.
One of the toughest things to do in sport is, especially in a small sport, is when you're the champion, all the media requests go through you.
Yep.
So you coming back in 2002 without that major sponsor, right?
Yep.
Who would cut you right before your first win. How tough was it to defend?
Again, it was motivating because I had raced a lot of the year blank, and
With no sponsors?
No sponsors. And
After being the Ironman World Champion.
and so I raced very sparingly.
Yes.
And I had a good agent manager who arranged some deals right before Ironman. I picked up some sponsors before Ironman, and I think after talking to them and them seeing some of my results, they were happy to be with me.
Yes.
And so I wanted to again, have a great race even more to show that my old sponsor blew it. And my new
Yes, they did.
sponsors were going to be along for a long ride after
Right.
that. And, and you just, Ironman had upped their prize purse at that point. And
Yes.
I was just all in. I was like, okay, I'm putting everything I got into this repeat and show that I wasn't, one hit fluke over there. And, it all worked out well.
So, and I love what Trek did. I
Yeah.
love that the Trek had that much confidence in you.
Yeah, that was just a nice surprise. I went to breakfast with the marketing people from Trek after the race, and they had already had the bonus check for winning prior to the race, and they
Really?
didn't want to tell me that before the race, of course. But
Yes.
after the race, they hand me that check. Literally 8 hours after the finish, the bonus check is. It showed that they were good company.
They believed in you.
Yeah.
They believed in you. So here we are at Challenge Aruba. I know you like adventures.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the cool things about this sport. It takes us around the world to go to great places.
Yep.
Impressions of Aruba so far?
It's you immediately kind of feel at home here when you get here.
I
It's
know.
different from the Caribbean islands, the other ones this is the first time to Aruba, and so I've been to a lot of the islands before, and coming down here, I wasn't sure what to expect.
Sure.
Knowing that I had a little Dutch history was a good thing because I've got a lot of Dutch in me, and so getting down here, my best way to learn about a place is to just kind of explore the island, and that's what I've been doing since, and I've really enjoyed it. I go on 2 feet and I run and ride around, and it's just been a blast, and everybody's been very pleasant and happy, and
Yeah.
the community seems great, and I think the course itself is going to be great.
It's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's harking back to when the reasons I got into the sport to begin with. Challenges is doing events that are they're not overblown, they're not
Right.
cookie cutter races. They're put on with the athlete in mind and the family in mind, and to make it more of a festival atmosphere throughout an entire weekend. And I just think that that's the reason I got into the sport, and that's why I fell in love with the sport. And it's really cool to see Challenge bringing those kind of opportunities around the world.
The other thing is when somebody has a traumatic injury, like there was a point where
Yep.
you're on a bike and you got hit by a car,
Yep.
a lot of times that can change your attitude for the better, where
Yeah.
you're thinking, you know what, I'm just lucky to be out here. I'm lucky to be
Absolutely.
racing and training and doing all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah. I hadn't seen Mark Harriman's here
Yes.
for a number of years.
And you guys both race in 01.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
01, and then I remember seeing him in 02 at the finish line.
Yeah, when he did the
and-
swim,
Yep. And, just being around Mark here, I've been talking to my wife on the phone, and, just Mark's so inspiring, and, it's just, it moves you to be around him.
Yes.
And he's just such a good ambassador for families, friends, everybody around him, and kids getting into athletics. I just think it's, he can give them a lot of inspiration.
You guys are also similar in the fact that you became,
Look at this.
I love it, that you guys became parents later.
Yeah,
You know?
it's funny. It's very Mark and I have very much in common.
Yes.
Our daughters even look alike. I mean, it's kind of funny. We've been comparing pictures and videos, but we both agree that having children later in life has been just a huge benefit for us.
Yes.
I mean, I was kind of done traveling the world, and so I've got to spend a lot of time with my daughter, and hopefully she'll remember that when she's older.
I'm
But
sure she will.
I know that I will. It's been the best 3 years of my life so far, is to be spending as much time as I can with her. So I can't wait to bring her back down here for the race.
You're bringing the family here, right?
Oh, yeah,
For
absolutely.
October?
Yeah, I mean,
One happy island.
I need to introduce Wilder and Nicole to this island.
I love that. So, Tim, I know swimming background. What do you know about the swim here for Challenge Aruba?
Well, I'm definitely about to find out. It's right behind me, and I think it's time that I figure out this course myself.
Love it. Tim DeBoom has been our guest. We are at the Challenge Aruba pre-course checkout with Tim DeBoom leading the way. Dude, you are in shape. I love it. We'll see everybody in October. That's a wrap.